Good evening, everybody. Esri Rozier here. So, for the third time in franchise history, the Eagles are 6-0 following a beautiful Sunday night where we defeated the Dallas Cowboys by a score of 26-17. I was at this game and it was a beauty to watch. It was truly an amazing night. There was so much about this game. So, the first two drives by both teams, they are very uneventful. Each opening offensive drive for both Dallas and Philadelphia came away with no points. But then on the second drive, the Eagles' second drive, there comes a 4th and 4 play. And everybody in the stadium knows that the Eagles are not going for it on 4th and 4. The point was they were trying to lure the Cowboys to jump. And we do. We tricked the Cowboys. The Cowboys player named Dante Fowler Jr., he jumps and gives us a first down, followed by a Miles Sanders touchdown to give the Eagles a 7-0 lead. And then on the following drive for the Cowboys, Cooper Rush, he's looking for Michael Gallup. And then he throws a pass. It gets deflected by TJ Edwards and intercepted by CJ Gardner-Johnson. And we're going to talk about more of him later in this video. So then on the next drive, the Eagles, we get the ball back after the interception. And we start running the ball very well. Miles Sanders had a good day on this night. And then there comes a point where Jalen Hurts, he pitches the ball to A.J. Brown, who blows past Micah Parsons and then jukes another Cowboys defender for a touchdown for the Eagles to going up 14-0. At this point, the Eagles are up by 14. And let's talk about Micah Parsons for a second. This man was getting owned. This man was getting shut down by Lane Johnson. Micah Parsons, he was completely neutralized this game. You remember how he had 2 sacks last week against the Los Angeles Rams at SoFi Stadium? He couldn't do crap in this game. He couldn't do crap. And we're going to talk about a certain mistake by him again later on. But at this point, the Eagles are killing the Cowboys by a score of 14-0. And now on the next Cowboys drive following this, I'm going to be honest, there was a certain third down play revolving CD Lamb where he caught the pass and then he pushes forward and tries to stretch for the first down. I thought that he got the first down. When he stretched his hand over the line, well, I mean, I was at the game. I didn't see a yellow line. I was just looking at the field. But when he stretched, I thought that he got the first down. But apparently he didn't get the first down. I thought that that was a bad call. I'm not going to lie. I thought that the Cowboys got a bad spot on that play. But you know what? Mike McCarthy didn't even challenge it. Mike McCarthy, he doesn't challenge the play, and I obviously think that they would have won. Like, Mike McCarthy, he should have challenged the play. That's his fault. You're going to get bad calls. I mean, we're used to getting bad calls for the Cowboys. Remember no clear recovery on opening kickoff, like, I think 4 years ago in AT&T Stadium? Remember 2 years ago where Jalen Hurts was ruled a fumble on a play where his knee obviously hits the ground before the ball comes out. So, Cowboy fans, don't even talk about refs. So, yeah, you got a bad spot. CeeDee Lamb, he did get the first down. But, hey, your freaking dodo coach, Mike McCarthy, he should have challenged the play. And then, and this might be the dumbest call of the game, the Cowboys, after not getting that first down, after not being deemed to have converted on that third down, it's a 4th-and-inches play. The Cowboys go for a bootleg on 4th-and-inches, and then it's incomplete. Why would you go for a bootleg on 4th-and-inches? Not just a bootleg on 4th-and-inches, but a bootleg on 4th-and-inches on your own 34. On your own 34. Really? Really? Are you stupid? Are you actually stupid? Like, seriously, like, what is wrong with you? To go for it on 4th-and-inches with a bootleg on your own 34? What a dumb call. So that sets up the Eagles with good field position. And then, now this is where I thought that we started getting a little soft on offense. On this drive, I think Hurts kept it as a keeper on third down. I thought that we should have went deep on that play, but nonetheless, we still managed to get a field goal on that possession to go up 17-0. And then Cooper Rush, he ends up throwing his second interception, the second interception of the half, to this time Darius Slay, who jumped right in front of Michael Gallup, and he started to move around a little bit afterwards. He went to the crowd and flexed with him. It's like Cooper Rush was not good in this game. I mean, he had a very clean record of turnovers this year. He was 5-0 as a starter, dating back to a win against the Minnesota Vikings the previous season in 2021, filling for Dak Prescott. But this game, his Cinderella story came to a stop in Philadelphia. Let me tell you, Cooper Rush, this game, I believe in the first half, his QBR was like 0 or something like that. 2 interceptions. Now, admittedly, the first one, it wasn't that bad because it was deflected by TJ Edwards. So I'm not going to give him flack on that one. But this second one to freaking Darius Slay, where he was looking for Michael Gallup, that was the worst one. But then we'll talk about another one later on. So around this time, Lane Johnson leaves this game with an injury. Well, a concussion, and more specifically, Lane Johnson left the game with a concussion. And right when Lane Johnson left this game, I thought that the momentum completely shifted. The momentum completely shifted. So, oh yeah, before half, so the Cowboys, they were deemed to have scored a touchdown on a Noah Brown play when his buttock obviously lands out of bounds. And I'm at this game and I'm like, that's not a touchdown. There's no way. Cowboy fans around me are celebrating like, bruh, you and I both know that his buttock landed out of bounds. That's not a touchdown. The refs ruled it a touchdown initially, but then fortunately they re-reviewed it, and then, well, they obviously review it as a touchdown play, and then they negated it upon review because it obviously he went out of bounds with his butt cheek. It wasn't a touchdown. So we forced the Cowboys to a field goal on that drive. And then halftime, we had a commanding 20-3 lead. But as I mentioned earlier, Lane Johnson left the game with a concussion. And then starting in the second half, I believe that the Cowboys started to take advantage of Lane Johnson's absence on that opening drive because we got the ball to start the second half. The opening drive of the second half, they started sending heavy pressure over Jalen Hurts against Hurts. And I believe that that pressure does not happen if Lane Johnson is on the field. Lane Johnson, he means a lot to this football team. He is the top right guard in the NFL. And when he went down, the Cowboys, so when the Cowboys stopped us on our opening drive of the second half, I believe that that gave them a spark. And I believe that that galvanized their offense, seeing their defense stop us on that opening drive of the second half. And now we all know when your defense gets a really big stop, it can galvanize a struggling offense. It can revitalize an offense that hasn't done anything. I've seen this myself last year when we were in Carolina playing the Panthers. Our offense was terrible in 3 quarters of that game, but after the blocked punt, Hurts and the offense, they really rose up because they saw how much the defense was doing for us to win that game. The defense was playing their hearts out for us to win that game. And then I believe the offense responded to that kind of fight by the defense. So in the second half, and this is what I was concerned about heading into this game, the Cowboys' rushing attack started to pound us. The Cowboys started to gash us running the ball. Ezekiel Elliott, he's getting these big gains for first downs. He's running the ball very well. Ezekiel Elliott, he has historically had big games against the Philadelphia Eagles. I was more concerned about him than the Cowboys' passing game because I didn't think that Cooper Rush could match up with Jalen Hurts on a primetime stage in Philadelphia. I didn't think that the Cowboys' passing game could keep up with the Eagles' passing game. It was their running game that I was concerned about. Very similar to the Detroit Lions in week one. And very similar also to the Detroit Lions in week one, our run defense was getting worked. Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard both, they were both running very well against this defense. So Zeke Elliott, he scores a touchdown, narrows the deficit to 20-10. And then I believe, so the second, right after Zeke scored the touchdown, the Eagles go 3-and-out again. And on the Cowboys' next drive, well, actually, no. So the Eagles, before going 3-and-out, there was a certain play revolving Micah Parsons. It was a third down, and Micah Parsons, he breaks up the pass. It was intended for Dallas Goedert. This was a third down play. We were about to punt. We were about to punt the ball. And then Micah Parsons, he very stupidly runs his mouth to Dallas Goedert, boasting and puffing his chest after the stop. And then Micah Parsons gets penalized for unsportsmanlike conduct and gives us a free 15 yards and a first down when we were about to punt. That was a stupid play by Micah Parsons. And listen, I don't agree with the taunting penalty. As an Eagles fan, I will say that I hate that taunting rule. It's a dumb rule. But to the Cowboys fans saying that that was a bad call, it's not a bad call, it's a bad rule. It's a bad rule being enforced. Listen, as much as I hate that taunting penalty, it's still a rule. the NFL, they are officiating it. It's against the rules. So you got to follow that rule no matter how bad it is. So Micah Parsons, and we all know that what a great player he is, he's got to be more disciplined. He's got to be smarter to follow that rule because, yes, it is a bad rule, but you still have to follow it. You still have to follow it. We're about to punt the ball. It was a third down play, and then you give us a free 15 yards and then a first down on top of that. Like, you got to be smarter, Micah Parsons. You got to be smarter. But nonetheless, the Eagles still ended up still going up 3 and out later on after we got that ball back because of Micah Parsons and the penalty. And then the Cowboys on the next drive, they continue to run the ball very well against us. I saw some very poor tackling in certain plays in regards to CeeDee Lamb and Noah Brown. The tackling was an issue last week in Arizona. It was better today, but in the second half, there were a lot of broken tackles I saw, even with Zeke. And Zeke, I will give Ezekiel Elliott credit. He never manages to lose yards. He'll always manage to get positive yards on a play, it seems like. I don't see Ezekiel Elliott lose yards. I will give that to him. Like, even when it looks like it could be a 5-yard loss, Ezekiel Elliott, he seems like he can always make something out of nothing. That guy, he's a power runner. He's a power runner, and he's had big games against the Eagles. I remember back in 2018 on Sunday night where he hurdled a man, almost broke out for a touchdown after that, but he wasn't able to keep his footing. And so this drive for the Cowboys, it ends with a Jake Ferguson touchdown. He was their tight end that was filling in for the injured Dalton Schultz. And suddenly, after the Eagles were up 20-0, it's a 20-17 game. It was a 20-17 game. And the drive after this for the Philadelphia Eagles, this was a team-defining drive. This was a win-defining drive. Okay, so the Cowboys, they scored 17 unanswered after the Eagles went up 20-0. And then on this drive at the beginning of the fourth quarter with like 14 minutes left to play, this was the drive where the Philadelphia Eagles broke the Cowboys' will. This was the Eagles' drive where we broke their soul. On a 75-yard drive that took up 13 plays, the Eagles, we run the ball down their throat. We kill the Cowboys with the run game. Miles Sanders is gashing them. They may be gashing us with Ezekiel Elliott, but Miles Sanders is gashing them. And I was saying before this game in my game preview that the key to beating the Dallas Cowboys was to run the ball because their run defense is noticeably worse than their pass defense. They are susceptible to giving up big runs. And this game proved it with Miles Sanders and Kenneth Gainwell. This game proved it reassured me that the Cowboys cannot stop the run. They can't defend the run. We were just taking their soul on this drive. And this drive, it took up like 7 minutes. It took up like 7 minutes, this drive. It reminded me of last year on our home opener against the San Francisco 49ers. The 49ers had a drive that was late in the fourth quarter, extended well midway through the fourth quarter. Like, they destroyed the clock, and that was a big reason why we lost that game, the home opener against the 49ers last year when Brandon Graham tore his ACL. Well, no, he tore his Achilles. This was a drive like that. The Eagles, we destroyed the clock with this drive. We just kept running the ball. We just kept pounding it with Miles Sanders. And I could feel the Cowboys' will breaking. We kept converting third downs. Jalen Hurts kept it with himself on as a runner on a few plays. And we were just slowly wearing down this vaunted defense of theirs. And eventually, the drive ends with a Devontae Smith touchdown wide open. He snuck past the defense. And what's so funny about this play was after that touchdown, Trayvon Diggs takes off his helmet and throws it down in frustration. He's having a temper tantrum on primetime television. And I'm like, that's going to be a penalty. That's going to be a penalty. You can't take off your freaking helmet and throw it on the end zone. So that inspires the Eagles to go for a 2-point conversion because of the penalty yards after that Trayvon Diggs penalty. Now, unfortunately, we didn't get it. We did not get that first down. I mean, we didn't get that 2-point conversion. So the Cowboys get the ball back down by 9. It's 26-17 at this point. And then Cooper Rush, he throws his third and final interception of the night. This time he was looking for CeeDee Lamb. And then our guy again, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, he intercepts the pass with a diving attempt. He intercepts it. And honestly, we should have picked off Cooper Rush 4 times in this game, because I do recall on the drive where the Cowboys first got on the board with a field goal, Bradbury nearly had a pick over Michael Gallup, I believe, in the end zone. We should have intercepted him 4 times, Cooper Rush, but we got him 3 times. This one basically sealed the game. The Eagles at this point, they're like trying to like run out the clock. We give the ball back to the Dallas Cowboys, and then they try to put up a field goal to narrow the deficit 20-26. And then Brett Maher, he misses the field goal. And then the Eagles beat the Dallas Cowboys. Our first win against the Dallas Cowboys since November 1st, 2020, when we beat Benjamin Anthony DiNucci. The initials BAD. His initials were literally BAD, B-A-D. And let me tell you, this was the sweetest win of the season. The sweetest win. It was the sweetest win because I the right before this, our last 3 games against the Cowboys were disasters. They were very bad losses. You had 2020 Week 16, where after going up 14-3, the Eagles, we get dominated and lose 17-37. Andy Dalton went off in that game. Michael Jacquet, our corner at the time, was atrocious. He was awful. One of the worst games I've seen from a cornerback. And then Monday night, Week 3 last year, we get destroyed 41-21. The game where Trayvon Diggs picked off Jalen Hurts, returned it for a touchdown, pick 6. And then the season finale last year, the regular season finale in Philadelphia, the Eagles had previously clinched a playoff spot against the Washington football team. So we decided to rest our starters. What also contributed to this decision was a COVID outbreak. And the Cowboys, they played their starters for most of the game, I believe over 3 quarters. Dak Prescott had 5 touchdown passes, and the Cowboys defeated us 51-26 at Lincoln Financial Field. Now, I know that was a meaningless game. We rested our starters, but to see the Cowboys come to our stadium, to see the Cowboys come to Lincoln Financial Field and drop 51 points on our defense. Admittedly, it was a backup defense, but it was jarring. It was very jarring to see that 51-26 burger that they dealt us last year in Philadelphia. It was a meaningless game, but I wish we played our starters because the Eagles, when we played the Cowboys in Week 3 on Monday Night Football, that was a team that had no identity. We ran the ball just 3 times that entire game. Just 3 times. That says all you need to know. By the end of the season, the Eagles were the top rushing attack in football. And if we had played our starters in that game, in that regular season finale at Lincoln Financial Field, I honestly believe that we would have beaten the Dallas Cowboys because that was an offense that struggled the previous week against the Arizona Cardinals, lost to the Cardinals at AT&T Stadium, but then we gave them that win, and it was jarring to watch. It was. I almost went to that game actually, but I got called into work. I'm glad I did because I would not have been happy for that to be my first Cowboys game, watching us lose 51-26. But this felt so good. After 3 horrible, lopsided losses against the Dallas Cowboys, we beat them. We kicked their butt. We exposed that vaunted defense of theirs. We put up more points against the Cowboys than any other team had this whole season. The most they had given up, I believe, was to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in Week 1, 19 points. We put 26 points on that vaunted, amazing defense that they had. We destroyed that defense. Miles Sanders, he ran like a grown man against that Dallas Cowboys defense, and it was a beauty to watch. It was a beauty to watch. Jalen Hurts, he wasn't as much a factor of running the ball as he was in previous games, but he had a solid day passing. I believe 155 yards passing. That's not a lot, but it didn't have to be a lot when we were running the ball so well. Shout out to C.J. Gardner-Johnson, though, because he was the best player of the game, I'd say. He had 2 interceptions, and he actually got hurt. He got hurt and left the game briefly, was questionable to return, but he came back, and then he got an interception to clinch the game after getting hurt. He played hurt and got an interception to clinch us the game. And for some reason, he didn't win NFC Defensive Player of the Week. Some dude in Seattle won it, and I'm like, oh, that is BS. So you're telling me that C.J. Gardner-Johnson, who had 2 interceptions to help us beat the Cowboys in primetime on Sunday night, he doesn't get it, but then that guy in Seattle, whatever his name was, after getting 1 interception and like 5 tackles, you got to be kidding me. You've got to be kidding me. We all know that C.J. Gardner-Johnson should have won that, but I digress. And we got our win against the Cowboys. It just feels so good. Jalen Hurts, he had not beaten the Cowboys before this. He was 0-2 against the Cowboys as a starter. I mean, he played like, I think, 3 snaps when we beat the Cowboys in November of 2020, but Carson Wentz was the starter that game. So credit for that win doesn't really go to Jalen Hurts, but he finally beat the Cowboys. He finally beat them, and it was beautiful. It was beautiful, guys. It was beautiful. We finally beat them again. After 3 horrible losses, we beat the Dallas Cowboys. Sweetest win of the season. And in prime time. We did it in prime time. They embarrassed us twice in prime time last year. Of course, as I mentioned before, one of the games was meaningless. We rested our starters. It was a Saturday night game at Lincoln Financial Field. But to beat the Dallas Cowboys in prime time on national television for everybody to see, it warmed my heart. This was my first Dallas Cowboys game, my first Dallas Cowboys Philadelphia Eagles game, my first in person live experience of this hated Cowboys Eagles rivalry. And to see us beat them, embarrass them in prime time, it was a blessing. It was a blessing from the Lord. And I thank Jesus for that opportunity. And the Eagles are 6-0. So we head into the bye week 6-0, still undefeated. And this bye week was pretty early compared to most bye weeks. Back in the summer, I was making a video how I said I didn't like the bye week because it was so early, but this bye week it couldn't have come at a better time actually because Lane Johnson concussion, he probably wouldn't have played if we were playing this week against the Steelers. And that would have been a big problem because the Steelers have a fearsome pass rush. Could you imagine playing the Steelers without Lane Johnson against that pass rush they have? That would have been a problem. That would have been a problem. And listen, so over the bye week, if we're going to make a trade, we have to make a trade for a pass rusher. I want to see this pass rush get better. Like Brian Burns in Carolina, the Panthers are like 1-5. That team is imploding. They just fired Matt Rule. They just traded Robbie Anderson after he got into it with the wide receivers coach. Trade for Brian Burns. People keep saying trade for Christian McCaffrey. I want no piece of Christian McCaffrey. I want no piece of him. That guy, he can't stay healthy. I mean, there's no doubt that he's an amazing player, but will he be on the field? Will he be available in the long term? Like, you just don't know with Christian McCaffrey. It seems like every single year that guy is getting injured. So I would stay away from him. Don't trade for Christian McCaffrey. Trade for Brian Burns. Make a move to just really upgrade this pass rush. You got to upgrade the pass rush. But the Eagles were 6-0. We get a bye week to heal. The offensive line was kind of banged up. Lane Johnson, as I mentioned, he left with a concussion, so this bye week will be very beneficial for us. And then after the bye week, we play the Pittsburgh Steelers, also at Lincoln Financial Field. This would be our second consecutive home game. And the Steelers, so they haven't won in Philadelphia since the 1960s. I am not joking about that. Look it up. I'm dead serious. I think the Steelers' last win in Philadelphia was in 1965. In comparison, by contrast, the Eagles' last win in Pittsburgh was in 2000. And so the Steelers, my first game 2 years ago, I went to my first Eagles game in Pittsburgh against the Steelers. We got destroyed by Chase Claypool. Chase Claypool had 4 touchdowns in that game. I want revenge on the Steelers. I want revenge because that will always stick with me. The first time I saw the Eagles play in person, we lost to the Steelers behind Chase Claypool's 4 touchdowns. I want revenge. The Steelers have not won in Philadelphia since 1965. I want that streak to continue. And this won't be an easy game because the Steelers, they're a very gritty team under Mike Tomlin. Yes, Ben Roethlisberger is gone, but you cannot count out Mike Tomlin. The man has never had a losing record. Has never had a losing record. His worst record is 8-8. 8-8. That was Mike Tomlin's worst record. And they just came off an upset against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They just beat Tom Brady. They beat Tom Brady. So if they can beat the Buccaneers, they can beat the Eagles. They can end our undefeated streak. So we'll talk about that game more in the coming days, but I'll talk to you guys later. Go Eagles, fly, cry, Cowboys, cry. Take care, everybody, and go Birds.